All right, sick. Yeah, so I'm Alan. I've been a contributor to Railgun for about 5 years. For people who don't know, we're going to kind of go through the TLDR of what the hell Railgun is anyway, so just hang tight for that, right? So Railgun research started in early 21, and the whole goal for it was to pave a path forward for a more feature-complete privacy mechanism for DeFi. At the time, there wasn't a lot of really good privacy features outside of mixers and centralized exchanges at the time. And further, the reality of the time was that decentralized solutions really lacked features. And this made them really unappealing to people who wanted to use them, and so ultimately sexes sort of became the de facto mixers of the space. So I guess beyond that, one of the goals was to make a privacy mechanism that didn't compromise on security and didn't require you to leave the ecosystem that is the chain that you're already using to maintain some sort of esoteric note mechanism by yourself. And the reality at that time, right, is a lot of situations were just that, right? A lot of protocols were and are still doing this to this day, right? So Tornado Cash, very famously, back in 21, came up with Tornado Cash Nova, which is for arbitrary deposit sizes. And mechanically, what that did was require you to bridge to XDAI via OmniBridge, which raises a lot of security questions, at least for people like me, because bridge security and liveness is kind of a big trouble in the space and has been since 21, right? So we didn't want to do any of that shit. It would also have the protocol have like proper key structure, right? It wouldn't have some notes generated in a dApp front end that you would try to store in Evernote or something like this and hope you didn't lose them. And so Railgun deployed, and it was okay. But it wasn't great. In fact, this is a Railgun transaction right here. And in 2021, a Railgun transaction, anybody want to guess how much it was? Because I'm sure you can't see it. It was like $180 to $250 when gas was 45 Gwei. It was extremely high. And this is a transaction right here from today. It's 16 cents. And this is all on chain. So this isn't all, we won't take all the credit for this. 1155 came out, that was a blessing. And there's been a lot of work on Ethereum to make this stuff cheaper, but we did a lot of work on circuits. There was a beta contract, a V1, a V2, maybe a V3 eventually. We've been hardening this ever since and trying to make it cheaper, right? But ultimately, the gas efficiency race was off, and we started chasing this this so-called like public address parity, which is what we were calling it. So what the fuck does that mean, right? Public address parity just means like anything that you could do in a public address, you should be able to do from a privacy mechanism, and have that privacy mechanism be somewhere where you can live with funds for an extended period of time, right? You don't have to take them out to deploy capital, right? Which is a huge drawback of privacy systems, right? Because the privacy of these systems is based on liquidity and piggyback off of each other. So the larger the TVL, the better. And the only way for the TVL to go up is for there to be great features that people can use to deploy capital, right? And so public addresses can do things also mechanically beyond what privacy mechanisms have been able to do in the past, right? So things like multi-sig, hardware signing, right? And like true access to DeFi and cross-contract calls. So one of the first things that we talked about there was hardware, multi-sig support. And Railgun architecture is pretty unique for a smart contract system that does this sort of privacy stuff. One of the big key features of Railgun and the way it's architected is that the keys do not have to be there, don't have to be present for snark-proof generation, right? So a lot of mechanisms require you to have some sort of secret present and put that into proof generation, and that's not great. And so this kind of like unique feature of Railgun makes it really great for MPC. And gives you a lot of flexibility in the signature schemes. And so, we're just going to go back here, sorry. And so we've actually done this already with Railgun. We have a POC that we're going to be showing off at DevConnect. And maybe here today if you guys want me to whip out the laptop. But for the sake of time, we won't do it. But the way that Railgun multi-sig support works is it leverages Frost, which, if you aren't a cryptographer, is flexible round optimized Schnorr threshold signatures. And it works pretty similar to a regular old multisig, right? You have an initial DKG. We do this really tricky. Is there anybody here from Waku right now? Sick. Yeah, so we do the DKG over Waku. We gossip that, so it's private, which is really cool. Some user initiates a transaction and then gossips that around again through Waku to other signers. They sign it. Once you get the amount of signers, you execute the transaction. So when it comes to parity, it's pretty damn close. So hardware wallet support also, again, the way that the signing mechanism works in Railgun, keys are separate from snark proofs. So this again allows you to do cool hardware support. I won't pre-rug people who are going to talk about this later. I think the guys at ZK Knox are here somewhere. Going to give a presentation and talk about the research that they did for hardware wallet support for Railgun. So go check that out, I guess. But suffice it to say, this is pretty cool. I've used it myself on my hardware. It's pretty cool. And I see it being something really interesting and unique where you could have it be in a multi-sig. So you could do a 1 of 3 multi-sig, for example, and have 2 pieces of hardware that you hide somewhere around the world. So if you ever lose your keys, you can go back and get them. I think this is a pretty cool feature. And the last little bit here is on the DeFi side of things. And this is actually the thing that we spent the most amount of time on and the most amount of brain damage. So 3 years ago, it sort of started out as like integration by integration, right? And so swaps were really cool at the time, and so we figured out a way to take and integrate swaps against the 0x router. So you could, from a private address, take and swap from a swap against 0x, and they'd route your transaction and shield the results back. That was really, really sick. We also did yield by way of Beefy, which was really, really cool. So you can take and get yield on your private address. And then we did LP through Uniswap v3, which is actually a weird amount of work because the positions are NFTs, and making sure that like that was secure was kind of fun. But naturally, the devil's in the details. But we sort of noticed like an overarching theme, right? In that DeFi at the time, atomic DeFi anyway, was approve tokens for spending, spend the tokens, and get the results, right? And the SDK came out to be a nice little recipe builder. Wish my glasses weren't falling off as the blazes of hell up here, but suffice it to say, we did a nice little recipe builder and put that together into the SDK, and we went to market and shilled, right? We said, hey, you could build privacy into your DeFi application. That's really cool, right? That's a great feature ad for your dApp. We also went to like wallet providers and said, hey, wallet provider, you could have like an incognito mode on your wallet. See, we have this cool wallet that did it called Railway. There was this one called Terminal. You can do really sick shit like that, right? And the reality of the situation was it didn't go great. It didn't get a lot of integrations, not a lot of traction. The reality of the situation is builders are fucking busy, right? People don't want to add extra stuff on top of what they're doing already. And Railgun's really, really complicated. And so if you're like raising capital and doing some weird stuff and you got some VCs you're trying to impress, trying to figure out the 500,000 line code SDK for Railgun was a bit of a nightmare at that time, right? And so it was a really hard pitch, right? But I would say that it was kind of a blessing in disguise because the reality of the situation was that this isn't a really good way to go about DeFi. Because it works at the speed of a builder, right? So every new integration, every new DeFi primitive would require somebody to write some code, deploy something, get it into an app, submit it to an app store, whatever. There's a huge delay, right? And there's some like really cool new shit farming activity like every other week that you want to take advantage of, right? So it's actually kind of cool that it didn't work out because it caused us to do a little bit of different research, right? So we said to ourselves, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to stop asking for permission and asking people to integrate stuff, and we're going to find out a way to do it in an automated fashion, right? So we came up with this thing called Connect, right? Which the TLDR on Connect is it's an extension that records and spoofs local transactions against a dApp front end and packages those up into a nice multi-call and puts those in a snark proof. And it does it all automated, right? So we basically pretend like we're a really good RPC, and we instead grab all that stuff locally, bundle it, and then put it in the snark proof. So what this allows us to do is leverage transaction simulation instead of like trying to go out and do integrations. Now, there's definitely limits to that, and I'd probably need another 20 minutes to talk about where the challenges are for that kind of stuff. But I'll save you guys the brain space. And so, oh, sick. That's great. So where does that leave us, right? So Multisig is going to come out. We're going to drop a really sick SDK for it. You guys should check it out. Hardware wallet support's pretty cool. It seems to be working really well. That's going to drop pretty soon. And we're working on this really cool thing, Connect. And so I hope this is like a really interesting history lesson, but really what this is an appeal to people who want to work on really cool, weird, nerdy privacy stuff with us, because the DeFi stuff's pretty cool. And if you want to like get in on Connect, come and build it with us. I'm hanging out. There's also Kai. If Kai, you want to raise your hand. Another Railgun contributor here. So if you guys want to talk about this stuff in some excruciating detail over coffee, come and fucking find us. Thanks.